AM 1480 WLEA.
Congressman Tom Reed in segment 1, Hornell Republican leader John Buckley in segment 2.
It's time for Top Story on AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Well, this week in the news locally, we learned that the entire medical staff at St. James Hospital signed that resolution that's being sent to the state, asking them to keep the inpatient services at St. James. A 2.8% tax increase for Canisteo town residents. Arkport Central says disciplinary incidents are down this year. Catherine Burdick declared the winner of the Hartsville Town Justice race. That race took a while to be determined at the County Board of Elections. No major county or statewide news. The big news on the national scene, immigration. On to talk about that here in segment 1. Corning Republican Congressman Tom Reed. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us on, Brian, as always.
First off, congratulations on your big win November 4th. Wondering, do you think that nationwide campaign from the left, the war on women, lacked credibility and actually helped the Republicans?
Well, as my opponent tried to use that attack in our campaign, I just find that kind of rhetoric just offensive. To say that we're in a war against women is just not accurate. It's not the right message to be sending, and it's just not true. And so it's frustrating, and I'm glad to see the results speak volumes, I think, with our 63% win on election night. I am just so humbled by all the support. It was a great evening, and we're going to continue to fight in Washington on behalf of all of us of Western New York.
Yeah, not that you didn't do a good campaign, because you did. I just thought that was a very weak argument for the Democrats and Martha Robertson locally to run with.
We saw that rhetoric coming out of the left, and they're obviously trying to politicize these types of issues, and it's just wrong. It's more division in America. We don't need that. We're all American at the end of the day, and there's no war on women that is out there.
On immigration, President Obama indicating that he's going to sign an executive order to basically give amnesty to millions of illegals who are here now. Here's what Congressman Trey Gowdy said to Bill O'Reilly about that on Fox News.
For one, we need to persuade our fellow citizens that from 2008 to 2010, when he had the House, the Senate, and the White House, he didn't do a damn thing about immigration. So why can't he give the Republican House and Senate 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to do what he wasn't able to do in 2 years? So first tool is persuasion.
I've made that point, too. There's no urgency to do this. He could give you guys a chance in January. And I would say 3 months, 4 months is fair. Number 2.
Well, he's going to poison the well if he does that. And he just needs to understand up front, if he wants a solution, he'll wait. If he wants an issue for their candidate to run on in 2016, then he'll do what he's planning on doing.
Congressman Reed, your thoughts on what Congressman Gowdy said there to Bill O'Reilly?
The president's action to go it alone, to me, I wholeheartedly agree, is divisive. It doesn't solve the problem, and it's more about politics than really coming together to see where we can come up with a solution to this immigration problem. I'm a big advocate here in Washington to say if there's a problem, we need solutions. And it's time to put forward a solution to our immigration issue that doesn't involve amnesty, that secures our border so we deal with the problem, and we solve this problem. And for the president to do it unilaterally is just not the right path to go.
Here's what Trey Gowdy says about the I word.
The only people who want us to talk about impeachment are the president's allies.
All right, so you see it as a bait that you're not going to take.
I'm not going to take it because I've met Joe Biden. That's not the answer, is to replace Barack Obama with Joe Biden.
Explain the Joe Biden reference.
He would be the new president. I mean, so you get rid of one guy who's not...
He would be the new president.
Congressman Reed, is it the feeling among House Republicans that they don't want to do impeachment to fight Obama on immigration?
Yeah, I don't see any type of support to go down that path. And when we talk about impeachment, that's an extremely serious proceeding to contemplate. I think there's a better way. I think the way to deal with this is to take on the president in regards to his unilateral action, say that's not the right way to go, and let's put together a solution out of the House and now the Republican-controlled Senate that is a Republican-based solution to this problem. And I think there's a path there, and it deals with securing our border, not granting amnesty, and coming up with a solution to the problem. And that's what I'm going to be a voice of and try to be as we go forward in this debate.
Congressman Reed, some would say that America needs to be compassionate and pretty much let everyone in and, on top of that, give amnesty to those already here, guessing that you would probably argue that the executive order, if Obama signs it, would not be compassionate in the job market to those who are already living here.
I agree, and also how is it fair to the legal immigrants? I mean, we're all the sons and daughters of legal immigrants over the years. And how can you look a legal immigrant in the eye and say, you know what, I know you waited years, you paid thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. How is it fair that those who came here illegally and violated our laws get the same rights and benefits that the people that followed the rules did? That's not fair. That's not right. And to me, it's a fairness issue, and I think there's a path to a solution that involves not dealing with amnesty and not granting amnesty to the folks that violated the rules.
On the Republicans who are going to be taking over key positions in the U.S. Senate with the victory of the Republicans getting the majority there, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky becomes Senate Majority Leader. They say John McCain from Arizona will reportedly become chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator Ted Cruz getting the Senate Science and Subspace Committee. Your thoughts on how those Republicans would do in the U.S. Senate?
Well, you know, I'm very optimistic and very pleased with the quality of the senators that are in the U.S. Senate. One of my best friends in Congress, Cory Gardner from Colorado, became a senator, and I'll tell you, I know him. I know him personally, and you know, he's the type of caliber individual that I think is going to change the culture of the Senate and is going to be a leader. And with a Republican-controlled Senate, now we can put forward an agenda where it clearly is going to be a difference, a contrast between our agenda and the president's agenda. And if that's the case, I think our issues, our solutions, are the right solutions for the American people.
So far, what we've seen in the Obama presidency is that he is a very, very tough negotiator when it comes to legislative issues. Do you see that continuing, or is he in a weakened position from what you can tell with the Republicans in control of now the U.S. Senate and the House?
Well, I just look at the election results, and the president came up, had lunch with us and a group of members, and after the 2012 election, he said elections have consequences. And the same is true in 2014, when the American people spoke loud and clear that the policies of President Obama are rejected by the American people. Now, I think the American people are looking for leadership. They're looking for solutions to America's problems, and there is now an opportunity with a House and Senate-controlled Republican majority for us to do that. And I want to be part of those solutions. I want to be part of the effort to promote those solutions, and that's what we're going to do as we go forward.
One local question for you, Congressman, the one everybody's talking about lately. St. James Hospital in Hornell, anything new there you can tell us about?
We're continuing to put pressure in Albany to the Department of Health and to the governor's office. We need everybody in the community to come together. We have a public meeting on November 20th to come out in droves to send a message to the Department of Health and to Albany and the governor's office that closing St. James and not having an inpatient service capability for our hospital and for maternity service in particular, we need to make sure that's there. And we're going to join with the community. We're going to join in that fight and continue that fight from day one, and we'll continue to do it until we're successful.
And final question for you, Congressman Tom Reed. Was there anything we didn't bring up that you wanted to cover?
Well, you know, as we go forward and deal with the issues of America, I so appreciate the people getting involved, coming to our town halls, and just continue to reach out to us, because I truly do believe to represent 700 and some thousand people, you got to listen to people, and that's what we're trying to do. And I appreciate all the input we received from across the entire district.
Congressman Tom Reed, thanks for calling in.
Thanks so much, Brian. Keep up the good work.
Hornell Republican leader John Buckley's next. Back on Top Story, Brian O'Neill now in segment 2 with Hornell Republican leader, 9th Ward Alderman, and Deputy Mayor when Sean's out of town, John Buckley. John, thanks for calling in.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Gee, I think I need a few more titles.
Yeah, you're wearing a lot of hats these days. John, we have not had you on Top Story. Had you on Newsmaker Show, but not on Top Story since about 3 weeks before the election. Wondering what your thoughts are on the Governor Andrew Cuomo victory.
Well, it wasn't really a surprise. You know, I remember being on your show. Oh, I don't know, back in the winter, right after Trump got out of the race, and I remember talking about Rob Astorino then, and the same holds true now. Rob Astorino had no name ID, he had no money, he had no support system. So, you add all those up, and what do you get? Well, he came up short. So, Donald Trump had all of those things. Had Donald Trump gotten in the race, I think we'd be talking about Governor Trump right now. It didn't come to fruition. So, 4 more years of Andrew Cuomo.
One Republican said to me, and this sort of fits the description of what you just said, that the New York City voters are not going to vote for somebody upstate that they don't know, and that Trump was a New Yorker that they know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I was in the room with Donald Trump back in February, and, in discussing a potential run, Trump was very serious. A lot of people say, well, he's not serious. He just likes to stick his toe in the water and this and that. Well, that's not true, because Trump had pollsters there, and they had done extensive polling, and they polled minority groups, they polled women, they polled different segments of the state, and Trump polled very well throughout the state of New York, and Trump polled very well, extremely well, as a matter of fact, in the city of New York itself. So, I think had Trump gotten in, we'd be having a much different conversation right now, and Governor Cuomo would be packing his bags and ready to exit the governor's mansion. But as we said before, it didn't happen. Rob Astorino and Ed Cox saw to it that Trump got out of the race. They didn't support him. There was a movement back in February to get Trump to run for governor, and he had one stipulation and one stipulation only. He said, I will run for governor if there is no primary opponent. So if the Republicans can just clear the field, I will run. And I was 10 feet away from him when he said that. Ed Cox, the New York State Republican chairman, backed Astorino, and for whatever reason would not support Donald Trump. And Astorino just kept going along. So Trump said, well, you know what? I'm out. Good luck to you. And he just went back to ending his business, and here we are.
What do you think of Rob Astorino's claims, which he's made, that State Senate Republican leader Dean Skelos and others in the Republican Party did not help him win the governor's race?
Oh, I believe that. I believe that 100%. You look at Dean Skelos, the so-called leader of the Senate Republicans. Well, he's not really a leader. I mean, here's a guy who voted for the SAFE Act. So, some of the downstate Long Island Republicans aren't really in line with, our way of thinking, and it's just, but they can get away with it down there because things like the SAFE Act, they play better downstate than they do upstate, whether you're Republican or a Democrat. So the question is, did Skelos actively support Cuomo behind the scenes? And I don't have any proof of that, but it sure wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, a guy from Astorino's campaign named Michael Lawler has been giving stories to Fred Dicker where Lawler says that was the case, that Skelos and Cuomo had a deal, and Skelos discouraged Republicans all over the state for campaigning for Astorino in the governor's race. On the Reed-Robertson race, a Tom Reed victory, we had Reed on in the last segment. Any thoughts on Reed's victory on November 4th?
Well, I was with Tom Reed the night of the election. We were at the Corning Radisson together, and in fact, when the numbers came in and Tom had won, he gave just a tremendous speech to the audience. And when he came down off from the podium, I was one of the first ones to give him a hug and congratulations. And I mean, what a resounding victory! Geez, I mean, the numbers. That wasn't even a contest, really. I think the voters really spoke. There's so much going on at the national level. With Obama and Obamacare and the immigration and the scandals scandal after scandal, whether it's the IRS or Fast and Furious or pick a scandal. There's one every week. I don't know, just pick your favorite one. But Martha Robertson is to the left of Barack Obama, so I think most people realize that, and they said, hey, you know what? Well, President Obama and his policies, they're not really working out too well for the country. So do we want someone like-minded that will just fall in behind him, lock, stock, and barrel? No, we don't. We want Tom Reed, who's a proven commodity, a proven congressman, and by the way, who has grown exponentially in the last few years. The Tom Reed that was elected initially and Tom Reed that we have today, I mean, he has grown so much as a person, as a congressman. He's such a very thoughtful congressman. He listens to all sides of the argument, and I cannot say enough about Tom Reed. He's doing an outstanding job.
I asked Reed in the last segment if he thought that whole campaign from the left called the War on Women helped him, because that campaign seemed to help Republicans nationwide. A lot of people just did not believe in that. I guess the problem that they had on the Democrat side was birth control is not that expensive, and to not have it paid for by taxpayer dollars just isn't that big a loss to the people that use birth control. Reed agreed that the war on women was a mistake on the Democrats' part. Your take on the war on women?
Well, there is no war on women. I mean, it's fiction that the Democrats have tried to gain traction with women. Hasn't worked. I think Congressman Reed had a debate with Martha Robertson, and she got laughed at when she brought that up. And I think Tom stated in the debate that he has 6 or 7 sisters, and a wife and daughter. So if he were waging a war on women, I'm sure his own family members would let him know about it. But it's really just a pathetic last-ditch attempt by desperate Democrats to gain traction with a segment of the voting population that really just kind of blew up and backfired on them. So it was never true, and it shouldn't really come as any surprise.
We're talking with Hornell Republican leader John Buckley. John, here on the campaign nationwide by the Democrats, here's what Jon Stewart said Friday night on the O'Reilly Factor on Fox.
Okay. Why did they get their butts kicked?
Because they curled up in a little ball and tried to make sure that nobody hit them too hard. I have no idea what they even ran on.
The Democrats?
Right. They ran on.
Always run on.
Here was they ran on. We don't like Obama either. I don't know who voted for him. We've got nothing to do with the guy.
And why did they do that?
Because they're frightened.
Do you think there's any truth to that, John Buckley?
Oh, sure. That sort of thing's been happening for years. When President Bush was unpopular, in his last term, and then, the midterms came around, you had Republicans running from him. They didn't want to be associated with him. They didn't want to be tied to his policies. They didn't want to campaign with him. And, and the same thing holds true now. President Obama, his polling is an all-time low. The majority of Americans are against Obamacare. His policies are failing left and right. He's scandal-ridden. So, naturally you have Democrats, just as Republicans did with President Bush, running from him, trying to stay away from him. So, that sort of thing happens both ways, and it's not really surprising.
Hornell Republican leader John Buckley, thanks very much for joining us this weekend.
Anytime, Brian. Thanks a lot.
And we had Congressman Tom Reed in segment 1. I'm Brian O'Neill. Stay with us. InfoTrack is next.